Hello and welcome to Smitty's. I am a wood cutting fanatic who loves to run a chainsaw. I run alcohol chainsaws, ported chainsaws, I race chainsaws, and I even run the occasional vintage. Now remember, I cannot do this without you. You're everything to the channel, so please remember, subscribe, give that thumbs up, leave that comment. Today, we are going to have a lot of fun. So how you doing? Hey, we're going to do a big old smack and reveal for you today on some sharpening. So, check that out. Make sure you stick for the end for the analysis part of it. The analysis really tells a big story. So you ready for some analysis? You'll see here, I actually screwed up in the video. I ended up getting the first cut and the second cut reversed on these two cuts here. So I ended up having to straighten myself out. But this also kind of shows you what was happening between the loose chain and the tight chain. So the loose chain was timing out up here, where the tight chain was timing out here. In some spots, my difference was like 2 seconds between a loose chain and a tight chain. Now, this is a self-feed test, so, in a push-through, if you're pushing it through, it probably wouldn't make as much of a difference. But for a self-feed test, a loose chain, you can lose about 2 seconds in a cut on a piece of wood that size. I accidentally discovered that on this video. I wasn't expecting it, and it just kind of happened by accident, and ended up being a little extra something we learned. But here we go. You get to see it. You can see it graphed out here. It's kind of intriguing. The first thing you notice is down here, we're at 8,000 RPM, cutting just over 18 seconds. And over here, we're at 10,000 RPM, cutting up here at over 23 seconds. Considerable difference. Were you expecting that? 2,000 RPM less, cut a lot faster. So there's something to do with the torque, I would say. If you have the torque to pull the chain, you can outperform a saw running at higher RPM on an average chain. You know what I mean? Something to think about. But there's just a little, analysis there. Any of you surprised on these results? We're going to be doing more testing. So our angles, one of the next things I want to do is I want to run through this whole test again, and I want to run it on a more powerful saw to see if the results change. Because it could all change differently, completely differently, on a more powerful saw. And then I want to come through and do another test, but I want to change the 60, I want to change it to 55, and do the same test all over again. One thing you can notice here is with the RPM, it kind of tells you how much torque it's taken from the saw to pull the chain. So, like this one here is common for me to show on video. Running at 9,600 RPM, it's out cutting the C83, Hexa, RS, and all that stuff. But if you think about it, you can tell that it's pulling more torque out of the saw to pull the chain. So what would happen if we were on, say, a longer bar situation, like a 28-inch bar on a bigger piece of wood? Would this chain actually pull the RPM down enough that these would flip-flop, that the C83 might actually cut faster? That is a huge possibility, because you can see here how much more torque it takes to pull some of these. You can tell just in the RPM. And just look here, 96 and 9,500 RPM down here. These ones are at 93, but the times went up. So there's definitely a sweet spot there in which, you actually start losing your cutting speed as you drop RPM. But you also could find yourself in a position where the tooth and everything is working so good that even though you are down at low RPM, you're able to outperform. Very interesting results. Very interesting. I'm curious to see what we find out on a more powerful saw. I think I'm going to run it on the 372 Pro. I think that's the saw we're going to do in the next test. Run it on the 372 Pro, the clone saw, the one with the big bore on it. What do you say? We do this same test, but on that saw. Start over. Let me know what you think. Very interesting results, don't you think? It's kind of a trade-off between torque versus RPM. It'll be curious to see in the end if torque still remains king, and it's able to pull these cuts off faster, you know what I mean, with torque versus an RPM build. Just changing up your chain angles to compensate, you know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see those results. So next time I do this test, we're going to do it on a more powerful saw, run through all these chains, and then we'll change up the angles and do it all over again. It's going to be interesting to see how things progress, don't you think? But anyway, hey, catch you on the next one. Later.